I'm going to try to not mess up or say something stupid, but no,
Yeah, you know how serious we are, so.
Don't worry, you'd have to go a long ways to beat us with stupid.
So welcome back, everyone, to our little podcast coming live from a Zoom meeting near or far from you. We are almost perfect. I am John, and there is our good friend Tom. Tom, how are you this morning?
Good morning, John. Feeling really great.
All right, very good. Wade is here. Wade, how the hallelujah are you?
It's a beautiful day in Corpus Christi, Texas.
It is, isn't it? It poured yesterday morning on my way to church, but today is nice.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's be on our best behavior, please. We have a guest this week. We are welcoming Laura Merril to the podcast. Laura, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be with you.
We can fix that. Don't worry.
That won't take long. No, I want to say at the outset that I am outside on my back patio, and that I do have some pretty bossy cardinals who think that they need to talk louder than I do. And sometimes they're airplanes. And so if it's loud, I apologize, but it usually passes.
Code language? You're Catholic, yeah. I was wondering, is that like code language, like for church talk? Is it
Cardinals? Yeah, they have their big hats and they're sitting right over here in the bushes, and they yell at me while I'm trying to talk. Yes.
So for those,
they're like, you can't be a woman in ministry. Anyway.
Oh, here she goes. Here she goes. That took all but a minute and a half. Very good.
Sorry.
For those of you who don't know Laura is the current assistant to the bishop and director of Clergy Excellence in the Rio Texas
We are
Conference.
the product.
And she's still willing to meet with us.
My evaluations yearly are like, really? Clergy Excellence? Y'all aren't doing so. Anyway, that reflects on me.
She is the pastor whisperer. That's the code name for that title. And recently, Laura, the news was shared that you have a new appointment that begins in July. You want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. I am going to be appointed by the bishop as the district superintendent for the Capital District, which is in Austin, Texas. Obviously, is where the office is, and then extends various directions outside of Austin. It includes some other parts of the surrounding areas. And so I'm very excited about that move.
Very good. How many churches are in the Capital?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. And so I'm still trying to find boxes to pack my house, and I haven't learned all the things yet. It's not, I think it's in the 60s is my memory. Those numbers kind of change from year to year, but I believe that's right.
Good.
So,
all right. Well, congratulations on that.
Need to write that down as the first thing I need to learn.
Very good. How many churches?
How many churches are in the district to which I'm going to be appointed? Correct.
That ranks up there with learning all your kids' names. That's kind of important.
Or how many kids you have?
Yeah.
Very good. Hey guys, yesterday was Palm Sunday. How was it for you?
Oh, it was very special for us. We had our confirmation Sunday. Had eight kids who knew that what they were doing and still did it anyway. And 3 of them were baptized before taking the vows. And so it was very cool, and having family in as far as California coming in for this. And it was a great day, wonderful day.
Praise God. Good deal. Wade, how was it over there at St. John?
Yeah, we had a great day. We had assistant to the district superintendent, Karen Beck, here to preside over a church conference where we, after we worshiped, where we changed our leadership structure to a simplified board, and that vote was unanimous, which is pretty cool. And so it was a good day once the rain stopped.
Okay, very good. Amen. Laura, what is for somebody on the cabinet, like what does church life look for you? What do you do on Palm Sunday?
I generally attend online at this point. Now, now and then I've had the joy of being asked to preach, and I'd say the last 3 or 4 of those I've been preaching for churches that are actually meeting in person. So I've driven to the church and preached in the service. Prior to that, I, recorded sermons and sent those in 2 days early or whatever. But otherwise, I some days I just look at one service. Other days I look at 4 or 5. It just depends. And so if I do 4 or 5, I will say I probably don't stay for the whole thing. But the music or the worship, the sermons, that kind of thing. And so it just depends. Some days are just for me, and other days I feel like I'm checking something out, or seeing how a church is doing, or had heard somebody who's doing something creative and want to go see what they're doing. So it is a relative kind of freedom that is interesting. It's a different rhythm, certainly.
Okay. Do you grade us when you watch us online? I'm just, you say John Fletcher, C+.
So no.
Incomplete.
Incomplete.
Incomplete. Needs work. Red pen.
Improvement.
Yeah, no, I mean, grade. No, of course. No, of course not. And at the same time,
yes.
Yes.
like,
Okay.
I mean, only because, I mean, not like different things work in different places. That's all. But sometimes you see something and you think, I wonder if they've thought of this. And at the same time, I don't need to be the boss of everybody's stuff all the time. So,
I'm glad you said that, because if I watch other preachers, I do grade them. I'm like, bro, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can help it.
Yeah.
We can't hardly help it.
That's right.
Last week we had Bishop Lowry here because he was in for a special memorial service Saturday, and so I extended the invitation to preach, and of course, I'm listening to him and kind of evaluating and going, yeah, but the other thing is there's application. It's like you apply some of the things that go, that's good. I need to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to remember that for your next appointment, Tom.
Do you give him notes?
Give him your notes. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I may have to come in and rescue you guys at some point.
Yes.
So.
Hosanna, Tom, save us.
Can't wait till you're retired, actually.
I will say, as a district superintendent, especially with some folks who were just starting out, I would give notes. I'd follow up with an email. You have to make it like, here's all the wonderful things you did. You have to say the nice stuff and the affirming, because really, like, I get it. You don't want to just have. So in another thing, when I was in your church and I wrote all the things down you did wrong, like, that's just demoralizing and terrible.
Sure.
But if there's something that could be like, have you thought about this? And I don't know. Anyway, I try to be a positive person if I can.
Very good. We appreciate you. So I
was going to say, you're going to be someone's first DS, and believe me, the first DS is memorable. So I may not remember all my DSs, but I remember my first one, and I do remember my last one too. So,
well, word to the wise. Thank you, Tom. Actually, you're right.
Very good.
You're right.
That's why we keep Tom around.
I'll try to be nice.
Every once in a while, he'll throw out a gem or two. I'm like, you know what? That's why we pay him the big bucks around here.
Yeah.
So I asked Laura if she would kind of talk to us a little bit. She has an important role in our conference, assistant to the bishop and pastor whisperer and everything else. And she has some great experience as well. And if she would be willing to kind of lead us in a conversation about maybe some important lessons that she's learned in her roles and even in her pastoral experiences, and kind of just talk to us about what things she's seen that are important, or, trends is the wrong word, but maybe kind of things that are happening in the life of the church that we need to be mindful of, that we can encourage our churches to pay attention to as well, and maybe give us a chance to ask questions back and forth and all those kinds of things. And I think she said she would. I didn't check that follow-up email. But,
that part about leading the conversation is not the way I remember it, but I am glad to just talk about things that I see, but I hope y'all would, pick it up and run and ask questions and,
Okay, I'll lead it then. So Laura, what do you want us to pick up and run with first?
Oh my gosh. I think it's funny because I should have a more sort of orderly, whatever list of things to talk about or something. The first thing that these are just the things that are in my mental space right now. And one is something that I hope to put out. I'm working with the other people on the cabinet to try to get a word out about this. And that is just to say that both our clergy and the lay people who have been making ministry happen over this last extraordinary year are exhausted. Now that's not across the board. It doesn't take the same shape in every case, but I think folk are laboring under a layer of grief and fatigue that we are going to have to tend to this year, especially as we start looking
there's the cardinal.
He's the one. He's like,
yeah,
I own this place.
No, they were seconding your motion.
Yes, there you go. He's amplifying me. Yes. That as we all, are just kind of, you can taste this time that's coming, that we trust, that we hope is coming, although numbers are starting to inch up again, right, with COVID, and people need to keep being safe. But as we look forward to a time when we can actually be together again, it will, I think, be so natural and understandable for us to just kind of keep going, keep rolling, and then just try to pick up where we were before. And instead, we're going to need a couple of intermediate steps. And one is to make sure that our folk have been able to rest. And that's clergy for sure. And that's who kind of, I interface more with, but it's not just clergy. Right. It's the person who's been running the camera, and the person who's been uploading the video, and the person who's been in the worship band, and all these people who learned the new thing, had to pivot on a dime. They learned one Sunday that Facebook wouldn't load their thing, and they had to go over here to YouTube or what, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But those people, that kind of high alert status for a year. And then maybe somebody's family member died, and then maybe somebody had COVID and they not quite recovered, or, you mix all that in, and we need to take care of our people. And so, what I'm interested in is wondering how churches can, and especially staff and pastor parish relations committees, can kind of take a look at that, both with paid and unpaid staff, lay and clergy, like who's been shoveling hard, who's been carrying a heavy load, and how do we take care of them? And that we can look to our connection to do that there really are, we've learned, this is one thing we have learned. There are resources online with each other. We are resources for each other in a way that we didn't know we were. Maybe the Bible study group that meets every Tuesday morning, they can meet with some other people for 4 weeks and give that leader, whether it's your pastor or somebody else, a break from that. And in the process, you're going to learn something new. And then your preacher can give that other preacher a break, or whatever it is. Like, that's one example. There's so much online worship stuff.
Like we're
connected
or something.
I know, right? That word connection. I know, like, for real. Let's use that, not, in part to give people a break, but also because it enriches the soil. It puts oxygen into the system that wasn't in there before. and you're not listening to yourselves go around and around the block all the time. So who are those people? And it doesn't even have to be in your same town anymore. This can be, your seminary classmate who's in Ohio, or wherever they are. And how do we mix that up and get joy out of that? I mean, that's one of these things that, like, I've connected with my college friends who we used to, get together once a year. Well, now we're, every 6 weeks or so we get to see each other. And that's just been a source of joy and energy. Zoom is not great, but we live all over the country and we wouldn't be getting together in person every 6 weeks. We wouldn't. And so anyway, the starting point of that was, if we don't tend to people's grief and folk are going to say, I'm fine. But y'all know, and especially if you're grieving a death and you just had to pick it up and keep moving, that stuff is still in there, and it's going to be in there until it finds expression in a way that's appropriate. And so our churches, our leaders, we need to find places to swap with each other, to let people rest.
Well, kind of picking up on that, one of the things about the initial stages of COVID, and we were online exclusively, and we were piecing things together by Thursday. My work was done by Thursday night. So for the first time since I've become a pastor, I actually had a weekend because the only thing I ever did during that weekend was to watch the watch the service and engage in the service with everyone else. But at the same time, I look at it, this gave us fallow ground or let the ground lay fallow. Like Sunday school wasn't happening, so we didn't have all the Sunday school teachers. Youth wasn't happening, although they were trying to figure out how to do that online and stuff, and all that energy. One of the things that, Vacation Bible School, hundreds of kids, that was out, and so we weren't overwhelmed for 2 weeks in preparation and executing. Well, actually 2 weeks. It was a lot longer than that. People were just at alert. And so all of those things gave us an opportunity to kind of breathe in and breathe out. It was during that period of time where I decided this is time to retire, because I was enjoying my backyard an awful lot and the birds and stuff. But the other thing that you're talking about is that aspect of grief, and I know that this Memorial weekend, I'm actually looking forward to it because I want to lead the congregation through a process of journaling grief in the service, because we have lost, we've lost things, the hugs, the handshakes, the in person. There's still people, including my wife, who are cautious about returning to in person. She hasn't been in worship service since last March, so over a year, and so those things have been losses. Anyway, thank you for leading us in that kind of conversation.
Laura, have you seen any particular sort of signs of exhaustion and grief to look out for that maybe churches wouldn't recognize in their pastors, or maybe pastors wouldn't recognize in their leaders or congregants, related to what you're talking about?
I mean, what I've seen, I can think of some others that folk might see, but what I see is pastors questioning their call. I see pastors wondering, young ones, especially the ones with families, like, really, is this seriously, God? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Because this is exhausting. And if this is how this is going to be, I don't want to do it. And not because it's hard work, and not because I've had to learn a new thing. Partly, okay. And I think that the intersection of COVID and the need to do different things with the heightened kind of, I don't want to say divisive, but that just everybody's kind of looking for a fight sometimes in certain places. That is what's worn pastors out. in addition to that kind of need, every Sunday, somebody's going to be mad. Like this one pastor I know, was handing out the stuff for the remote Easter thing. And, the people are mad because you're going to do Easter remote. And the other people are mad because you're not going to, whatever the thing is you're doing, people are mad because of the two opposite sides of that, right? They're mad because you didn't do it soon enough, or mad because you are doing it, or that. And so, and the pastor becomes the repository of that and has to carry that around. And even when we know you're gonna, even in non-COVID times, any hymn you picked was gonna make half the group mad, or whatever, half the group is not gonna like it. We know that, right? You're not gonna make everybody happy all the time, but when it's just constant. So I think churches can help folk understand that irritation level with each other sometimes is misplaced grief. It's a misplaced feeling of a lack of control. And so church becomes a place where it's like, at least here, I know, this is how this should be, instead of being vulnerable with each other and just trying to talk about, the frustration level of it without attacking each other. That's the thing, I think. And so that's been hard for folk. And then there's just literally, they just finally wake up one day and like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to run your tech anymore. I don't want to run your camera, whatever. Like somebody just wake and they've gone too far now. They don't want to do it, instead of I just need a break. I don't know. I do think the divisive year that we lived through, in addition to COVID, has been hard on leaders of many sorts, not just the clergy, but anybody who's been trying to keep the family together has taken a hit this year. It's been hard.
Because all families are divided in some way, right? And right now, whether it's politics, whether it's your opinion about the vaccine, whether it's, whether you should go out to eat or not, or
correct. It just all pops up. Yeah.
Wade, Tom, Brad, and myself, we haven't experienced any of that.
Okay.
Awkward silence. Very good.
We also call John clueless.
I mean, obviously that's not true, but I have been aware that I am really, really tired, and I'm, and the weird thing about it is, because of our schedule now, it's not about hours. It's just, you're carrying this for your vocation. You're carrying it, I think one of the worst things has been not being able to see people when they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Then, I've got a kid in school, and he's doing really, really well, and it still is difficult. And, and then, stuff just happens. And I think I'm one who is pretty dialed into self-care, and I've just, I've had to curl up in bed a few times and go, I'm checking out today.
Right.
And you feel guilty about that, because sometimes you just can't put your finger on, I don't know what's going on,
right.
But something's going on that I just can't function today.
Well, and the other thing that you're making me remember is that, on the one hand, so one of the things that we're gonna, I hope, well, I shouldn't say we're gonna, I'm hoping to have a message for SPRCs that says, look, we want to encourage you and support you in giving your leaders a break of some sort, right? And at the same time, I know people who took a break 2 months ago and are still, it doesn't fix everything.
Right.
And so then the question is, how do we keep living in the moment? How, there's I should learn this, but there's the thing that, an hour each day, a day each month, or, the set aside time. And And even if it's just, I mean, gosh, I'm one who has had to like put down the journal, put down the devotional book, sit in the chair and stare at a tree. You know, what is the practice that allows you to slow down and stop, right? So there's that. There's also the piece of not being connected. And so I'm also leading this, it's called the 8-year assessment, which is a terrible name. So we're calling it the Adelante program. And Adelante means moving forward, means go ahead, sort of. And it's for people who are reaching an anniversary since their beginning of their time of service as a clergy person. And so this time it's really turned out to just be a place for those people to connect once a month. And we get on a Zoom call for an hour. And sometimes I'm in their conversation and sometimes I'm not. But our need for each other and the fact that we know we need each other, and clergy, you know, they hammer that into us, and yet sometimes we don't make time for it. And we need somebody to make us make time for it. We need accountability and love. And how do we do that for each other? Is that true in our churches as well? Are there people who have, you know, who really would benefit from a greater connection and invitation, not to, you know, learn something or whatever, but just to be in each other's presence, you know? That, I think
Somebody
that's
bring tacos, please.
Do what?
Somebody bring tacos, please.
Oh my gosh.
Please.
Yes.
Right before or right when COVID was hitting, I started working with a cohort on, we wanted to rewrite some curriculum that we like to use, but it wasn't very Wesleyan. And so Ray Altman convened us and we started working on this thing, and we finished the curriculum, I don't know, maybe it was September or October, something like that. And we had been meeting every Wednesday to do our work, and we got done and we all kind of said, we don't want to stop meeting.
Right.
Can we meet without working on anything? And we've met every Wednesday since. And that, and you know, and Mondays here, I mean, we don't, you know, I don't know that we really tackle very much that's all that important. But if we don't do anything else,
dude, Laura's not gonna come back. Can you take that back? Jeez, man.
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about
okay. Yeah.
Oh,
All the other 30-something episodes.
Right.
Yeah,
all those other episodes have been very unimportant, right?
Well, unless we had Tina Carter. We've had her once a month for a while. Those are usually good. But,
yeah, they're very good.
but you know, when it's just the four of us, it's pretty much just like hockey, and baseball. So
that's okay though. And I guess then, and y'all seriously, like, this is not on my 4-point list here, but the other piece of that is that then even taking a vacation, which is important for us to do, and what we're going to say to committees is vacation is not optional for your pastor. Some people in real life, you know, it is like they don't get to take as much vacation, but like, we got to take care of these resources. These resources are trying to take care of you. We got to take care of our people, lay and clergy, and you need to meet with each other more often than however often you can take vacation. You need to be doing that. And even with all of that, you're still going to feel stuck in this moment. This is still going to be hard. And so it's not that we're going to get rid of that or everybody's just going to sail through, but it means we're going to make it. We're going to make it because we're going to help each other. And we're not going to leave folk by the side of the road.
You know, one of the things, I honestly, one of the benefits of COVID, and you've already alluded to it, Laura, was, you know, prior to COVID, we were meeting once a month and not, you know, it was kind of scattered as to who would show up. And we were meeting in person at a local restaurant. And then COVID hit, and we were all trying to figure this thing out. So we started meeting by Zoom and trying to figure things out together and ask, so what are you doing and how are you handling this? And then at some point we said, we let's start a podcast. And actually, my YouTube keeps bringing up different ones from the past, and I didn't realize it was you and I started, John, with an invitation, and eventually Brad joined in episode 4. And I don't know when you finally came on board, Wade, but this has been kind of it's been
I watched it a few times, and I just felt like you guys needed me.
We did.
Oh my God, damage control, right?
I hate to admit it, but we did need you. But anyway, it's not just we do want to talk about things that we believe are helpful to the church as a whole, but it's also about kind of using this place as it's obviously therapy, and it's a good thing we're not paying for it because we're not getting anything out of it, but it is helpful, therapeutic to have these conversations. And so COVID, like you alluded to earlier, there's things we've lost, but there's also changes that have been helpful and connections that have been made where we're going, oh, we can do this in a different way. The impetus is always connecting soul to soul, heart to heart, mind to mind.
Right.
And
go
that's
ahead,
something that is important to me, not just in our collegiate relationships. I have a few people that I'm connected to that I appreciate their friendship in ways that I don't have with everybody. I tend to be, the guy when we go do our events, whatever, I'm the guy in the back sitting by myself because I'm cool. I'm doing my own thing, right? And so, but I do have people I connect to, and some I put up with. Anyway,
present company included.
But anyway, but still, the sense of community that I think belongs in the church is something that I have longed seen as something that is not there.
Yeah.
Right? And talking about our previous episode, we've talked before about an article that came out. It just struck me because that's it. That's what we've been saying for years and years. When COVID hit, when people went away, what churches found out is that connection they thought was deep was not very deep at all. And we were just sort of hiding behind, Sunday morning stuff and doing stuff. Exactly. Instead of right. living into the sense of being the family of God, the body of Christ in our local churches, and nurturing these honest and important relationships that we have, right? As we're growing in grace and learning how to follow God more, doing that together in real ways, not just, sharing Sunday school answers, which is kind of how I see how a lot of our church relationships are. And so that's something I try to communicate. So, if somebody's listening to this in our church, you think, oh, okay, well, the pastors, they're just whatever. Well, in one sense, you need to realize, like you said, Laura, those who take care of those who everybody else need to be taken care of as well. But at the same time, this is the same kind of thing that's been happening in our churches that I think we're finally more and more seeing the fruit and the consequence of, and we're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to be honest about what got us here besides COVID. We can blame COVID.
No, COVID is the crisis moment that broke the frame and allowed us to look at ourselves with a different set of eyes. Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right, John. And for me, it's funny, Tom mentioned this a minute ago. I think one of the greatest dangers for the church right now is going to be just because of our grief and our discomfort, that we're going to want to put the clothes back on that we were wearing when this happened. And so you mentioned Vacation Bible School, Tom, and oh my word. And y'all don't hear me. I'm not anti-VBS. Okay.
That's what I'm going to tell you.
We're all there. We understand that. Yeah.
And the question is, because it is a tail that wags the dog in certain churches. It eats money, energy. No, we can't do that because we have to get ready for VBS. Question is, and now I'm going to sound like a super old person. You go back to that Deming model, the input, the throughput, and the output. in the church, it's a, a manufacturing model, right? Where you have the raw material, you do something to it, and then you come out with the thing that you hope to produce, right? Well, churches have been really good at having the raw material, which is the building and the people, and then we're really good at the throughput, really good at doing stuff to the raw material. We have very little idea of the output, which is what John was just describing. The output is growing in the grace and growing in the knowledge of the love of God together. So VBS is just a thing, but if we don't know why we're doing it,
exactly,
I'm not going to say a waste. It is a great use of resources and energy without a good purpose. It could be a great thing, and it could be a great thing to reach, grow relationships with families, grow relationships with children, for crying out loud. My goodness, we need to raise up this generation.
Amen.
And yet, if we're not clear about why we're doing it, we're going to send those kids off and say, well, see you next July, and that's not relationship.
Right.
And it's not growing in grace. And it's, so how do we use this moment to say, we didn't get to do any of this last year? Which of these things do we actually want to pick back up? Which can we let fallow again another year? Let's see, did we really need it or not? Did it make any difference? And then which things do we want to pick up in a different kind of way?
Yeah.
It's generative. It's super exciting in my opinion, but it also takes energy. And this is where we've had, when people like me who sit at the belly button, in the center of the hairball, as we like to call it, we say, let's re-envision, let's reimagine. And pastors are like, oh God, please don't say that to me. Like, I don't have any energy to do that.
Rethink.
I'm too tired. Yeah, rethink. Let's rethink. And they're like, oh no, oh, please don't tell me to rethink. I can't we just be normal for a little while? This is the moment we're in.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm kind of excited about right now, my ad council chairperson and I sat together and kind of, tonight's our ad council meeting by way of Microsoft Teams. But anyway, he's been asking for the list of ministries that we're involved in, and so we put that together, and Travis has looked at it, and he and I sat, and both of us kind of saw the same thing. This really huge, it's like a smorgasbord of ministry, but not a clear interweaving of one consistent theme. And so tonight is about, first of all, naming what they are. Is this an event or is this an actual ministry? And then the other thing is what's consistent with the very vision statement we've already, we call it Vision 751, and what are these align with what we've said? This is where we're going as a church, and I'm transitioning out. Come the middle of June, I've already told people, I said, I'm going to be like a senior in high school. The last a month and a half. It's like I want to be there, but I'm not going to be there, because experiences told me over and over again, when you get close to the end of something, you start to check out. But I also know that what I want, for Forrest Divinity is that he comes in with a strong, healthy staff, and a good leadership that has a clear idea of where Asbury is going, and working on that, on actually doing the pruning that needs to be done at this point. And certainly, again, all that list isn't necessarily all the things that we are doing. In fact, many of those things we're not doing at all because of COVID, but some of those things we already were pruning back to begin with, but they're on the list so that we can address them and see how they line up with our vision statement. Anyway, so that, to me, this is my work. My work is to have the church as healthy as it possibly can, with a very clear sense of direction. So Forrest comes in and he's, hopefully he's going like I did with Jason Teagues. Thank you, Jason. you left me a really good staff, and there's a lot going on here that I am glad to follow after you. And I'm hoping Forrest will feel that same thing when he comes in.
Very good. Because it's still a season for your church, and you have to lead your church, right? You still have to pastor the church. Very good. All right, everyone. Well, we got just another minute or so, but Laura, that's some very good stuff. I appreciate that. Our leaders, when I say ours, cabinet level and DSs and the bishop are carrying this conversation amongst yourselves, and thinking about how do we help once this kind of settles down a little bit, and or even during it as well, right? Because in the conversations I've had with some clergy colleagues, wow, I have literally worried about some of my colleagues, worried about their families, worried about their own well-being, and so and that matters to our churches as well. And so I appreciate you sharing that, and that being a part of the conversation with the cabinet and others as well.
Good.
So any in the last minute or so, any final comments or questions? Wade, anything you need to leave with us?
Oh man, it's Holy Week, so I feel like just kind of along the same lines as we've just been talking about. I did online electronic Holy Week last week, because the guy who does all my video editing, he's got to do 4 times this week instead of 1. And so now I'm doing actual Holy Week, and there's a sense in which I'm more prepared, but it's also like Holy Week's 2 weeks this year. And so, I'm kind of looking forward to Monday.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Tom, any final thoughts before you get out of here?
Well, obviously, I want to say thank you for inviting Laura here. And Laura, I'm glad you joined us. And even when you're up in Austin, I'm sure there's going to be an extended invitation, just like with Tina. Tina has been marvelous to have on this. In fact, it is always a pleasure when we have guests, because I've heard these guys, and it's nice to have sanity return every now and then.
Yeah. Well, the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, right.
Beyond mutual.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And I'll say 2 things in closing, and I'll probably make you go over time. But one is that I feel a real heart of gratitude for the creativity and the faithfulness and the kind of willingness to just keep plugging that our churches and our pastors have evidenced. I mean, it's been beautiful to watch, and it gives me hope for the church. Because you're right, John, some of the things that we were facing before COVID. COVID just allowed us to see it in a different way. We're still having to figure out how to translate the gospel to folk who are not going to walk in our doors. How do we do that? And so I'm grateful and I'm hopeful. I really am. There's so much creativity in the heart of people. And then the other thing is just that y'all provide laughter in my life. Sometimes I laugh at you and sometimes I laugh with you. But either way, I like literally laughing out loud at a post. And that's joy that I appreciate. Thank you for bringing joy into so many people's lives with your postings.
Amen. All right. And thank you for listening in, watching in, however you listen or watch to the podcast. We're grateful that you're a part of the conversation. And if there's ever anything you want us to talk about to help find a Christ-like response to, let us know. We want to talk about that. Send us a voicemail or an email. We'd love to be able to hear from you. Just in closing, I want to share this with you. I found this online. Top paid LA lifeguards earned up to $392,000 in 2019. So I'm gonna start working on my lifeguard body. But you guys, Wade, Tom, Laura, thank you so much for the gift of your time. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in, and God be with you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.